All right. I think my best videos occur when I kind of just go with the flow and don't know exactly where it's going to go. I mean, I've got some ideas in mind, and I do have a couple of stunning cards to show you. A Playing Days Joe DiMaggio, a Playing Days Ted Williams that I have not shown before on this channel. I've got a story that goes with that. So I'm just going to roll with this and see where it goes. I guess I'll start by saying why I don't really care that much about comps. Now, let me use an analogy. Let's say the scale for weight loss, weighing oneself. I don't really care that much about the scale. Now, I think it can be a useful tool. It's one measurement, one indicator, particularly if someone has a lot of weight to lose, it can definitely be helpful. However, to me, it's one of the most meaningless measurements out there because I don't care about what the scale says. I don't care if I weigh 170 or 190. Now, if I weigh 300, that's a problem, you know? But if I weigh 180 or 200, it doesn't really matter that much because what I really care about is how do I look? How do I feel? Do I have strength? Do I have energy? Am I sleeping well? Am I healthy? Is my skin healthy? Am I in a mental flog? Yeah, mental flog. Flogging myself mentally. I've done that enough. Am I in a mental fog or am I sharp mentally, all of these things totally trump. Like, I don't care if the scales went down, if I don't look good, feel good, if I'm not, if I'm not stoked about the results that matter to me, which is not a number on a scale. Think about this thought experiment. If you could weigh 20 pounds more, but have less body fat, more muscle, more energy, feel better, look better, yada, 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 would you take that or would you take, a lower number on the scale? For me, all these other considerations totally trump a lower number on the scale. And that's the same way I feel about comps. Now, of course, I think they are a tool that has some value, but they can mess with your mind just like the scale. Here's how the scale can mess with your mind. You go on a cruise, you eat a crazy amount of food, say for the first 3 days, you step on the scale on the cruise and you've gained 15 pounds. Do you think I'm somebody that speaks from personal experience on this? Yes, I am. I'm not advocating for going, whole hog on the cruise ship with, that unlimited buffet, but yes, I have done it. And that's not actually, you didn't gain 15 pounds in 3 days. Maybe you gained a pound or something. Most of that's water weight. It's just based on this large consumption of food in a short period of time together with a bunch of additional sodium that causes you to gain water. So, the scale can mess with your mind. It can mess with your mind the other way too, where it's like, oh, look, I lost 3 pounds. Maybe you lost a half pound. You might have lost 3 depending on, how long it's been, but maybe you only lost a half pound and you're dehydrated and you're thinking you lost 3 pounds and you're thinking what you're doing is working, So I find the scale to be not the greatest indicator by any means, and that's exactly how I feel about comps. Comps can mess with your mind too, because, oh, look, that went low. Well, why did it go low? Was it because there was a poor picture? So if you're buying it, you're kind of taking a chance. Was it because it doesn't have that great of eye appeal for the grade? Was it just kind of a one-off, where it just happened to go low because there weren't as many eyeballs on that auction or something? Or it could go high, and if it goes high, was it messed with? Was it shill bidding? So yes, comps have some value, but they can mess with your mind as well in many ways. So what do I care about when it comes to sports cards? Not the comps, but rather, how much do I love this card? Is this a card I really want in my collection? How tough is it to come by? How nice is it for the grade in terms of eye appeal? To me, all of these things trump comps. How much joy am I going to get out of the card in the future? How much excitement will there be over this card if I decide that I want to move it and sell it? Will it be liquid? Will it generate some interest, and will it have demand? Will it potentially go up in value because people will want it in the future, or it will become tougher to find as they get, as they move out of the market into private collection. So that'll, but there's still demand, so that'll put upward pressure on the price. Like, what's going to happen to this card in the future? I would rather every single day of the week buy a house for 10% more than comps if I'm absolutely going to love living there, rather than buying a house for 10% less than comps where I got a legitimate great deal if I'm just going to be like, yeah, I guess it's okay here. Now, of course, I don't want to overpay. But if I had to choose between overpaying and loving where I'm living, or loving the card I got, or underpaying on something that I didn't even really care for that much, or was like, yeah, I guess it's okay, I'll overpay every day, twice on Sunday. So I try, of course, I don't want to overpay, but here's the deal. I've been collecting, much of my life, but vintage baseball cards and then some modern cards, only the last 5 years. However, the times when I've tended to do really well with something I bought that increased in value, it was generally something scarce that I bought above comps, and I paid more than others were willing to pay because I saw its future potential and was fortunate to be right. I mean, examples would be some of the coins I bought in some of the early NGC holders that like 2.0s, 2.1s, if anyone out there is familiar with these. I was buying them for more than anybody else wanted to pay, and now they're worth, multiple times what I paid. And I only have a couple left. I sold many of them for a profit in order to get vintage baseball cards. And, hopefully I'm not saying this to try to brag or stoke my ego. I'm just saying that, if I had listened to comps, I would have never bought those coins. I bought them because I absolutely love them. I still think they're just really cool in those old holders. I should have pulled one out. Maybe I'll show one sometime. But I also was willing to pay over comps, and I was probably paying, 10, 20% over comps on purpose because I felt like these things are freaking, to me, they were worth more, and I felt like these things ought to be worth more, and the market eventually caught up to that, and, and now the price I paid is way, way, way below comps. And like I say, many of them I've already sold and profited and then put that into vintage baseball cards. So if I had been listening to comps, I would have never done that. So there's a couple of cards at the National. I'll go ahead and move into this now. So there are my thoughts on comps. Would love to hear your thoughts below. Do I think they have some value? Yes, like the scale for fitness. I think they got a little bit of value, but to me, not really that much. I go more on my gut. Sure, I will check some comps at times, but more on my gut feel for what a card is worth and how much I like it, the visual appeal, how much I'm going to enjoy it, whether it's easy to get or not. I get pickier if it's easy to get. What its future potential might be, how well it fits in my collection. Sometimes I will even buy something. I'm not sure how stoked I'm going to be about it, but I might be in the future. I love what Mike Petty said, buy what you're going to like in the future. You may not like it now. The couple of cards I'm going to show you in a little bit here, I wasn't 100% sure. I was at the National. It was Friday. Let me tell you this story. I didn't go off comps. I went off of my gut and these other considerations I've been talking about, like how cool do I think these cards are? How much joy would they bring me now or in the future? What do I think? Do I think there might be more demand for them, or the same amount, or will demand fizzle in the future? These other considerations. How easy would it be to trade this if I decide that I'd rather have something else? So I'm at the National on Friday. I've already made, my purchases. I started out the first 8 hours of the National, like Wednesday night, Thursday morning. It was famine. I couldn't find what I wanted. Woe is me. How come the world's not bringing me what I want when I want it at the price I want? I think I felt that way a little bit, but I knew that's totally irrational. That's realistic, and that's pretty narcissistic thinking, So, I realized that was unrealistic. It's just I wanted to get some of those darn 38 Gaudi with cartoons that I didn't have, and I wasn't having any success. Finally, found very few where they were overpriced or didn't look that great, or actually I don't even think I found any I already had that I would have bought if I didn't. But anyway, my famine changed to feast when I got a few. I got 3, and then I got a couple other cards, and so yeah. I was like, I'm good if I don't buy anything else. So Dave, Legends of the Dugout, and I were cruising around the National on Friday, and I'm just going with him, and he likes to really spend his time at tables. I tend to kind of cruise along a little more, take a brief look in the display cases, maybe ask if the dealer has a certain, card or 38 Gaudi heads up with cartoons, but for the most part, just kind of move on. Whereas Dave, he'll really dig around the various, booths or tables, whatever you call them, of the dealers, which, I think is pretty cool. And I was happy to hang out with him. So we end up, thank you, Dave. Credit to you. By the way, one of these two cards that I bought, he said he would have bought if I did not. So, I'm going to try to remember this because sometimes I can forget stuff. But if I ever do decide to move that one, I'm going to reach out to Dave first. That's my plan, right? If I don't forget, hold me accountable on this, Dave. I'll reach out to him first and say, hey, do you want it at the price I paid? And if he does, that's great. And if he doesn't, that's fine too. Okay, so Friday, we're at the National. Get to this dealer's table. Philip Gary, I believe is his name. I did not know him. Turns out he's a great friend of Orlando. And I'm like, well, that's, guy must be a great guy then. Orlando, A Collector's Dream, is a good friend of his. And then Philip tells me, oh, I love your YouTube channel. I watch it, and I'm like feeling really honored and humbled. Wow, that's totally awesome. So he starts showing me his cards and that he has there for sale, And I mean, this is pretty cool, because of course he's trying to sell cards. I mean, that's why he's there, but it's kind of cool that he's like, hey, I love your YouTube channel. And he's actually kind of giving me a tour of his inventory and saying, check this out. Look at this. This is really cool. He shows me a couple cards and I'm like, wow, these are really cool, And he had them priced at $395 each. And I'm not even sure if I had ever seen them before. I think maybe possibly on eBay I might have seen one, but it didn't really register. I'm like, I don't even know if I've seen this. A Playing Days Joe DiMaggio and a Playing Days Ted Williams from the same set. And I'm thinking to myself, I have some, these are kind of calling to me, but I'm not sure. They're oversized. I like some oversized items, really like some oversized items. So I'm not adverse to oversized items, but, I kind of brought the smaller carry-on suitcase for the National. Yeah, now, yes, I could fit these items in there, and I did buy them, and yeah, I got them in there, and they got home fine. But still, I wasn't sure I wanted to carry around big items at the National. I don't know why. It was just kind of a block. Buy the small cards at the National. They're easier to carry around. Have my little fanny pack ready to go. Anytime anyone laughed about it, I just kicked their butt, and that pretty much took care of it. After I kicked a few butts, people quit making fun of me for having a fanny pack. Never mess with a baby boomer's fanny pack. So he tells me a little bit about the cards. They came in a booklet, and he carefully took them apart himself and sent to PSA the entire page. You'll see them in just a minute. I know I'm keeping a mystery here. But anyway, he says, yeah, they're pretty low pop. By the way, I checked later. The Joe DiMaggio is pop 2, I think, in the grade I have, with like 6 higher, and the Ted Williams is like pop 2 with 8 higher. So yeah, they're low pop, all right, PSA. And so he says, at some point, he says something like, tell you what, if you buy both of these right now, because I was thinking about, walking around, taking his table number, maybe coming back, and, seeing if they're still there, maybe making him an offer. He said, if you buy both of these right now, I'll give you the pair for $600. So, which I'm totally cool with the dealer saying that. I took it this way, he really likes my channel. Yeah, he's trying to sell cards, but he's like, hey, here's the deal. I know you're kind of thinking, do you want these? Don't you want them? I'll make you a deal. You take them right now, you can have the pair for $600. And again, they're priced at, $395 each. So that'd be $790, almost $800 for the pair. And now I did not go off comps. I could have looked up some comps, but I just went off these other considerations, my gut, do I really like these? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to freaking love these things down the road. Mike Petty speaking to me, buy what you're going to love in the future. Thank you, Petty. But what if I don't? I'm pretty sure, my gut was telling me I'm pretty sure I can sell or trade these and, probably get my money back. And heck, if I only get 80% of my money back, it's not the end of the world. This is a hobby. I enjoy them while I have them. And I think that the other possible outcome, which is more likely, is I'm just going to hang on to these things and be freaking stoked to have them. And once I start a card room, don't necessarily want to do that in our current house because we might move. So I don't want to do too much anyway. But once I start a card room, I think they'll display wonderfully. So yeah. Just based on all these other considerations, how much joy will these bring me? Are they tough cards? Yeah, they are. Do I like the look of them? Yes, I do. You don't see them very often. Are these cards that will probably have demand in the future? We're talking Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Playing Days cards. Price seems very good to me. Heck, these oversized PSA cards, I don't even know what they charge you. When you take a card this size, you send it to PSA, they're going to charge you, $195 to slab the thing. Okay, that's probably probably an exaggeration. Maybe it's 75 or 100. I don't even know. All right, I went on and on. Finally bought these big boys. Without further ado, let me turn this camera around and show them off. Now, there's going to be a little glare, so I'm going to kind of change the lighting and see if I can remedy that some. Here we go. Woohoo! All right, 300 buckaroos. Let me work with this. I think that's pretty good. You are looking at, it's in a PSA Good 2, by the way. 1950 All-Star Baseball, Joe DiMaggio pinups, uncut the entire page. There were 10 pages. Stan Musial, Jackie Robinson, Joe DiMaggio, and Ted Williams. I think those are the big 4 cards. You had some other players there like Jim Hegan, people that had been American League All-Stars either that year or the year before. And let's see if I can show it to you here. There's the label. I know it's sideways, but it's hard to, this is the back, hints for playing in the outfield. Now, this is a good 2. What makes it a good 2? As best as I can tell, it's a good 2. If you see little stuff going on, it's pretty much typically just something on the plastic here, because this thing looks really nice. Oh, that rich green. Playing Days DiMaggio. I think it's just because there was a metal cylinder that acted as the binding for this little All-Star Pinups book. And so just because there's a little bit of wear, or, it's been pulled out a little bit there where the binding occurred, I think that's what makes this a 2, which is just insane because it is so nice. By the way, this very card just today, what you're supposed to do, there's perforations, is you take this circle and you pop it out and you pin this up. And Mookie, I don't know if you're going to love this or hate this. I think you're going to love it. But you can let us know if you happen to see this. Up here near the top, there it is right there. That's a prefabbed little hole that you can just pop out. And if you pop it out, you can pin this bad boy up. So it has a prefabbed hole for pin up, that you pop out right there. And then it has perforations here where you can, kind of just carefully pop it out of there. And then you take the circle and you pin it up on your bulletin board or whatever. One of these today, a Joe DiMaggio in a pour 1, just the circle, not the entire page. Auctioned for $256, and on the back, a lot of the back was, I don't know how much of it. Maybe it was a third of the back or something, but a lot of the back had glue or something where it had been stuck onto something. So a lot of it was obscured. You couldn't read the words. So I'm thinking, yeah, this was a sweet deal. There's the Joe D. Oh man. I'll show you the other, and then I'll try to show the 2 together here. Also for $300, the Ted Williams, and this bad boy is in a Vintage Greatness 3. And notice it's got the little hole popped out up there, which is what was intended. Look at that. Oh, the glorious green. I know these are black and white photos, but just magnificent. I love that rich, forest green. I love having the whole page where it gives the name. Of course, it's up here as well, but gives the name and then a little commentary. Hitting star of the American League. What a gorgeous smile there. What a beautiful, tough Ted Williams card. Hints on hitting on the back. Let's show these beauties off together. So there's the Ted Williams. See if I can get both of these in. Let me show. Whoa. Yeah, these things, I tell you what, you can use these as TV trays for your food. Remember the TV tray? That was a big thing back in the day where you'd put your food on a TV tray and you'd have your TV dinner or whatever. But yeah, you could use these as TV trays for your dinner. Hints on hitting, how appropriate for the Ted Williams back, and then hints on playing the outfield for the Joe D back. Let me turn these around. These are unnumbered, by the way, but there were 10 on the set. See if we can get both of these on here. Kind of move that over a little, move this back a little bit. There they are. What do you think? Sorry about the glare. I've done the best I can there. $600 for this glorious pair. Yeah. Super stoked. Super stoked. The last of my national pickups I had not shown until this video. So what do I think? I think comps don't matter that much to me. They have some value, but I care more about a lot of other considerations. Mostly, how do I really love the cards in terms of their eye appeal and just the card itself? How well does it fit into my collection? But I also think about things like, what if I decide to move this because maybe, it doesn't resonate with me as much, or I'd rather have something else? What are the prospects for getting my money back, most of my money back, or maybe even having them potentially become worth more and having a future demand so that maybe even I end up, getting a little bit more back to put into some, to get something else that I want. Because, hey, cards are not cheap, as we know. I mean, they can be, but cards like this are not cheap. That's for sure. So how do you deal? How do you deal with quick decisions you've got to make? Now, this dealer was basically telling me, Philip Gary, which I totally appreciate. He was saying, hey, look, I'll give you a discount if you take these right now. I mean, of course, I probably thought about it for a few minutes as I stood there and looked at them and chatted with him. But he was basically saying, hey, if you want these right now. So if I had went away and came back, maybe he gives me the same price, but I wouldn't expect him to. It was like, look, you want these right now, I'll give you a great price. And now I think this can happen with online sales as well in a different way. Something comes up, it's tough, it's priced reasonably, maybe it's a little over comps, maybe it's under, maybe it's at, but it's tough, looks good. It's probably going to get snarfed up pretty quickly. You've got to make a quick decision. How do you deal with that? Well, of course, do you have the budget in the moment, or can you sell something, or, can you go into a little hobby debt? When I go into hobby debt, I'm going into debt to myself just because I have a self-imposed budget, which I don't have to strictly follow, but I try to, follow reasonably close self-imposed budget. And, I can go into debt with my self-imposed budget. So I'm just going into debt to myself, which isn't really debt because, we've got plenty of money to cover. And I'm not trying to brag here. I'm just being kind of open about, how I do it. If I really, really want something, I'll go into debt to myself, so to speak, and then spend somewhat less the next month. That's kind of the way I roll. So how do you deal with it? When you've got a big decision, you've got to make it quickly, because if you don't, it'll probably be gone, or maybe the deal won't be there anymore. What do? I don't rely so much on comps. I rely on my gut. I rely on these other considerations in the same way that I don't really rely on the scale to, as far as my fitness and health goes. I rely on all these other indicators that I think totally trump the scale. Let me turn this camera around because I can be quite long-winded, but let me give you one more look at these beauties. Oh man. Woo! Playing Days, Ted Williams, and Joe DiMaggio. I wouldn't mind picking up the Musial from this set. Maybe that happens at some point. We'll see. Probably $3,072 worth of PSA grading fees and plastic in each one, so you can't go wrong. Thank you for sharing in my joy. Would love to hear your thoughts below. I hope you had a wonderful and peaceful time in the Vintage Sanctuary. Take care, my collecting brothers and sisters.